About to pop open.
Okay. Hi. My name is
Hello.
Lasagna MacArthur. I am here with my friends, Antoinette and Aaliyah Weaver, and they are the founders, creative minds behind A Bold Story Never Ends. I am fortunate to be in their company. And so today we're just going to chit chat and we're going to talk with these two beautiful ladies about their journey. Their journey, and you'll be able to see a little bit about the background of A Bold Story Never Ends. So, hi,
Hello.
Leah. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
Good.
Antoinette, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm happy to be here with two of my favorite people today.
Yes.
So we're gonna chit chat, but we also know that what we're talking about today is a serious uh, matter, and so we're gonna talk about grief and the journey through healing, walking through the grief process, and so just to say that everybody's grief is different, everybody's journey is different, regardless of the relationship, being close with someone that um, their loss, their loss is their loss. Okay, so each person's loss is different, even though this is mom and daughter. Beautiful. See the beautiful resemblance of mom and daughter here. But each of you have your own journey and you have your individual loss of Aaliyah's brother, Cameron, Antoinette's son, Cameron. And so we're just going to kind of go through that journey and walk a little bit with you guys. And so, very informal, but to help me guide me, I am going to kind of ask a few questions as we kind of talk and go along. So, history, we did lose Cameron in 2020 to suicide. And so I kind of want to start off with you, Antoinette, as the mom. In what ways did Cameron's suicide impact your own mental health?
it was tough for me. I think I definitely struggled with my own mental health throughout my life, particularly anxiety, and I think once finding out that I lost Cameron, especially in the way that we did, it impounded like immediately. I remember that day all too well. It was July 13th, 2020. And at that time, we were in the midst of COVID. I was working, both of Aaliyah and I were working from home. We were living together at that time. And
Okay.
it was my first day back at work for that year. And so I just met with our team, and Ali and I were in the kitchen, like trying to get us some breakfast together. And then I got a text from Cameron. And when I got the text immediately, I processed because we talked pretty much every day,
Mhm.
my first thought was like, okay, what's going on now? But then when I reread the words and I pressed out to try to call him back, I realized that something was seriously wrong. And so Aaliyah had gone back in the room working, and then my phone rung, and it was a Huntsville number. And
Mm.
immediately I broke down and started screaming, and she ran out, and trying to ask me what was wrong. And so
Mhm.
she had to kind of take over at that point and answer the phone and got that information. But like I said, it just took me on a spin immediately. I was that anxiety, that the trauma of that immediate loss, and it feels like all the other trauma that I endured in out throughout my life just all came crashing in. And so I couldn't sleep for a good week or so afterwards. Aaliyah slept with me every night because I would wake up, in tremors, and just crying because I think I was feeling that it was going to not be true. Like one morning I
Mm.
was going to wake up and that wasn't going to be my reality. But
Right.
I would, find myself drifting off to sleep and waking up and then being faced with that reality over and over again.
This is
So
real.
yeah,
Mhm.
so it was very impactful. I couldn't sleep. I had to get on medication. It was the first time I considered, antidepressants and
Okay.
anxiety medications, because I needed it to function, because I couldn't process everything I needed to without sleep and without, being able to clear my mind. So
Mhm.
definitely a huge impact on my mental health.
Wow. Thank you for that. And Aaliyah, same question. How did the loss of Cameron to suicide impact your mental health?
It's honestly been a roller coaster of
Mhm.
emotions. I know on that day that it happened, my coping mechanism has always been for my mind to kind of shut down.
Okay.
So I think the role that I took was as protector. I knew in that moment my mom's heart just broke. I
Mhm.
think, and also I didn't really want to accept reality. So I was kind of confused on my reaction because I noticed that I didn't cry. It wasn't like a breakdown. I went into still mode where I'm like, I have to protect. Let's just figure out what's going on. Um, but it's very hard because I find myself, like my mom said, not wanting to accept it.
Yeah.
So there have been plenty of times I can be driving down the road. I'm in a great mood listening to music, and one word can just trigger me. And I'm like, this is real.
Yes.
Because for the most part, I guess my mind chooses to say, I'm just used to not seeing him. He's in Huntsville. It's fine. But then every now and then it sparks like, this is real. That day comes back up, seeing him, and that space comes back up in my head. But my mind goes back to shutting down. Let's
Mhm.
protect yourself. Let's not
Right.
get sad. You cry, and let's suck it back up.
Okay.
So I've struggled with kind of wanting to break down more and wanting to cry more than I have because I want to give those emotions to my grief.
Mhm.
But my coping mechanism has always been to just not have those emotions.
Mhm.
Let's just pretend like this isn't happening. So it's been a lot trying to go through therapy and just figure out the correct way to grieve or
Mhm.
grieve, so that I can not get past the situation because we never will, but to heal as much as I possibly can to continue to move forward.
That's right. And I know that that is what he would want for both of you to
Mhm.
continue moving forward. Um, and it is interesting that you share your coping skills was to shut down
Shut
and
down.
protect myself.
Mhm.
And but at the same time, you shared when it happened, you want to protect your mom. Let
Mhm.
me just handle business. Let me take charge, get the information I need. And
Mhm.
so I could see you're protective of yourself with your emotions and
Mhm.
protective of your mom with hers
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
Okay. So since we're there and mom shared like you guys were together, you were like having to share sleeping quarters and
Mhm.
everything when this happened. In what ways has this impacted your relationship with each other? And whoever wants to go first can go first.
Mhm.
How has it impacted your relationship with each other as mom and daughter?
Um, I guess I'll go first. It's been like, again, still using that word. It's been a roller coaster. So I feel like in that moment we banded together. I wanted to be there for her because I had, like my mom said, I've also struggled with anxiety my whole life. So now this is my first big loss, and seeing how mental health can affect someone. Like, we've all struggled with mental health our whole life, but I never thought that this would be the outcome of my brother, in his life. So I think it really banded us together, but I also had such a fear that I was going to lose my mom as well,
Okay.
because that's her baby, that's her heart. And I get that, and I struggled with, am I going to be enough
Mm,
to keep her here?
mm.
So I went through different emotions. I wanted to hold her tight. I feel like we became very codependent on each other, but
Okay.
also preparing myself like, this could be a loss as well. And I think that caused also kind of wanting to separate a little bit, because it doesn't make the most sense, but let me put myself in a mind space where I won't just completely break,
Yes.
So I think it's been a struggle with
Mhm.
our relationship. It's definitely been ups and downs, but she's my heart. I love her to death. I would do anything for her. So I feel like we've just really relied on each other throughout this whole process.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it became very codependent in the sense that she is the reason that I'm still here. To, in all honesty, if she
Mhm.
were not here, I wouldn't be, because I just couldn't wrap my head around moving forward, but I also couldn't wrap my head around leaving her. And then also, it crossed my mind is, I'm going through this now, and what if I lose her? You
Mm.
know, so
Mm.
I held on to her even tighter, and for me it was a whirlwind, because I felt the guilt really hit, because I felt like I should have been able to save him. You know, during our conversations, he would tell me, that I was his reason. And that when I would talk to him about, therapy, and he's like, "You're my therapist. You're who I come to. You're the person that I talk to." And so I kept hearing that over and over again. I'm like, well, if I'm your person, why did you do this?
Yeah.
And then, if anyone knows me, I don't really do a lot to celebrate myself.
Oh.
And a few years back, I proclaimed that July was going to be my month for me. It was going to be my 1 month to be selfish of the year. And he did it in July, 2 weeks before my birthday. And so I think part of my mind wrapped it around, he chose this because he was angry with you. And so
Mm.
even though all of the facts were the fact, he texted me, and he told me he loved me. He just told me that he was tired and he was sorry. And so if he was angry with me, why would he text me? But yet my brain couldn't process that. It was,
Mhm.
you're his mom, you're his person, and you're a therapist, but you didn't see this coming. You didn't say the right thing, or was he telling you and you didn't pick up on it, or so it was really tough. And so I started to doubt myself as a mother, because I always viewed that was my reason. My kids were my everything. They were my reasons for being. And then that put me in a mental space of, okay, well, maybe I failed as a mom. And if I failed as a mom for him, did I fail as a mom for Aaliyah? And then there were things that came up, just a couple years before I had just finally gotten divorced, because, we went through a long-term separation. And so all of that came up, if I was a better mom, or if I had been a different, in my marriage, or if I gotten out of the marriage sooner, or, so all of those things that just
Mhm.
started building up. And so I was pulling her, but then it felt like rejection when she pulled away. And so that made me even more fearful. Like, okay, she would voice a concern that she had, but my brain translated that is, she's telling you you're not a good mom. You're not a good mom. And that's right. He told you by his choice. She's telling you by telling, sharing with you her struggles. And so my brain just kept processing, you're not a good mom. You're not a good mom. And the more that I tried to hold on to her, the more she's like, I could see I was suffocating her, because that was too much pressure, because
Mhm.
that wasn't her role. And I would tell her, it's not your role to take care of me. I'm your mom. I need to take care of you. But my actions weren't demonstrating that for her. And so she, tried to be strong for both of us. And that was unfair, because she needed her space and to process it in her own way. So eventually I was able to get there, but it took some time. And so, like she said, our healing was very, if she had a good day and I wasn't having a good day, that pulled her down. And then, vice versa.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was definitely a lot, trying to be there for each other, and yet being true to our own needs and our own feelings of grief.
Yes, so trying to have that collective grieving as a family, but then also the individual grieving journey. And I think it was something very important that you said. It takes time. And I think it's so important that anyone viewing this understands that there is no time stamp on grieving. And
Mhm.
how long you should grieve and how long
Mhm.
this, that, and the other, how long you'll be codependent on each other and everything. So there's no time stamp, and everybody grieves in their own way. And I think you both
Mhm.
said that.
Mhm.
You were there for each other, and then still questioning yourself and how to be there for each other, but also still trying to grieve on your own. So I know that that was a lot. So I guess my question now is, are there any other factors that are impacting your grieving process? And I'll start with you, Antoinette.
I think definitely it is, because we started off as a family of four, and within a 5-year span, we were down to a family of two. And it was it's also just with also our position in our immediate family, but also the relationship that we had with our extended family, because we've always counted on each other. We were the
Mhm,
ones I would go to, in particular, my sister
mhm,
and Aaliyah, that was kind of also her go-to person to an extent. But then she was having her own grief uh around Cameron's loss, but also, of course, with some personal things that she had going on. So,
mhm,
it was a very delicate situation because we couldn't necessarily be there to support each other in the way that we needed to. For example, I'm so used to my parents just rushing in, and, when something happens, they're there. And for that first week, they were at home trying to process their loss, and it was just Aaliyah and I. And so, so it's really just kind of changed the family dynamic as a whole, and just being able to give each other that grace to know that they're still there for me, but they just can't show up for me in the way that they need to. And so, and I think that's what caused me to really start to lean out of the family, for that support,
mhm,
because
mhm,
I really need someone that wasn't living that hurt with me.
mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. I
Mhm.
get that. I get that because now we're stepping outside of your walls, and your go-to people are also grieving.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. So, Leah, same question. With all of this happening, are there other factors that were impacting your grieving process? I know your mom kind of shared a little bit about your
Mhm.
grandparents and your aunties, and
Mhm.
even your dad,
Mhm.
how your family went from, four to the two here.
Mhm.
So, any other factors impacting your grieving process?
Um, I feel like for me, my grieving process just felt different because it was showing up as anger. So I kind of felt like people couldn't necessarily understand me because when you think of grief, you think of someone sad, someone crying, but I was angry. I was angry at my brother for leaving me. I felt
Mhm,
abandoned. I was
mhm,
angry at how broken my mom was, and I couldn't do
mhm,
anything to fix it because I can't bring him back. I
mhm,
was angry at how our family did split.
mhm.
Everybody is going through their grieving process, so we're not spending the time that we used to spend together. We're not hearing from each other as much as we used to. I see how it affects my mom because she's a huge family person. Family
Mhm,
is everything to her. So I just found myself being really angry, feeling like it just what was the reason? Why was this what was so massive that you did this to your family?
mhm,
So, and like my mom said, I had to kind of lean on non-biased people because I felt like within family, or if I'm speaking to, mutual friends of Cameron's and I, it just felt like they couldn't understand where I was coming from because they weren't grieving in the same way that I was.
mhm,
So in some aspects, it really pushed me away from people because I just felt like my mom said, they couldn't be there for me in the way that I needed them to be.
mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a very good point because too she would say things like why did he do it and what I think, and I don't want to misquote, but I think for the how could he be that selfish, or how could he choose what was going on? How did he make what was going on more important than us? And so even though, especially as a therapist, I could hear that and process you know, that's her way of finding meaning in all this. But then it was that layer of, okay, but I'm his mom and I need to protect him, but she's my baby. I'm her mom and I need to protect her. So it was always that feeling of being torn, like how do I support her but yet protect him, and but then also deal with my own feelings about that, because I think at the beginning I wasn't willing to be angry with him, and
Okay.
I think that internalized, it was me, it was my fault, it was other people's fault. But I think it took me much longer to get to the point where I could be angry with the decision,
Mhm.
and then even with that too, I felt shame and guilt attached to that, because I know it was just, he couldn't help it. It wasn't just, at that time that was the only decision he could have made based on, I read a book recently, it called it Brain Ache, and it talked about how that pain in your brain ached so deeply that the only thing that you could find to alleviate the pain is to end it. So I
Mhm.
had all of that, in my head. And then two, I think another thing that kind of hurt Aaliyah and I relationship was that I immediately clung to their dad, because in my head, this is the only other person that shared what I shared with Cameron. Cameron was a part of him, just
Mhm.
like he was a part of me, and we created
Mhm.
this. But unfortunately, my longing for him to feel what I was feeling and to sharing that with me wasn't something that exists, because we didn't have that same attachment to him.
Mhm.
And so I just kept holding on, and I was like, okay. And then I think another layer to that was, I want him to be there for Leah. She needs this male figure. Cameron is gone,
Mhm.
so she needs this man to step in and be there for her. And so no matter how much I willed that to happen, that wasn't what he was giving.
Mhm.
He was giving, what she saw was him attaching to me, but yet not being there for her, which hurt her.
Yes.
And so in my good faith, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna win him over, and I'm gonna have him be a dad to her. It was pushing her away from me, because it was making her angry, because she saw that he wasn't going to step into that role for her, and
Mhm.
that it was more about me.
Yes. Yes. So I heard both of you, and one of the things I wanted to point out is, like you said, you're a therapist. Aaliyah, you work in the medical field.
Mhm.
I, work with in the helping profession as well. And there's a lot of research, a lot of books, a lot of literature about grieving and the grieving process and the stages of grief. So I want to point out that in books that really talk about the stages of grief, anger is one. So some people may stay in it a little longer than others. Some are in the, go into the um, guilt and are bargaining, what if could I have done, or what have you. So both of you are valid in your feelings, and so I want you to know that. I just wanted to really, really reiterate that you're valid in your feelings of anger. In some literature it talks about anger in grieving. If it stays a long time and gets really, really hard to process, sometimes to become rage, or it can go inward and become more depression. So anger is valid. God gave us that emotion for a reason. We all have that. And it is a part of grieving. So you're valid in wherever you were and wherever you are in your grieving and healing process. I want you to know that, both of you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Mhm.
you.
So you kind of touched, well, you really touched on this, because I wanted to say, how did the individual grief journeys impact your relationship with each other? but I know initially you guys were together and living together and everything. So over time now that you've been walking this walk, how has your individual grief journey kind of impacted your relationship with each other now as mom and daughter? We're looking at 2024. So how is it kind of impacting you now as mom and daughter?
I think our relationship has been much better. I found something that I needed to do for myself and for our relationship was kind of separated a little bit so that we're not so codependent on one another. So I feel like the space now that I've moved out and we kind of have our own, we have time to miss each other now.
Okay.
And if, like she said before, she's in a bad mood, I could go the day without speaking to her. So she can't bring me down with her emotions, or, you know, the same with me. Like there's sometimes I want to call my mom because she's my counselor, my therapist, my calm down person. When I'm in a moment and there's nothing stopping me, I can speak to her and she immediately just brings me back to earth.
Okay.
So I have to tell myself, don't call her and mess up her day right now. So you have to figure it out right now on your own. So I think we've just been much more intentional because we've been through so much. So we got, okay, we're putting a lot on one another. So let's kind of separate that so that we can be there for each other the way we need to, but not forcing ourselves and our emotions and our grief on one another. Like we have time and space to deal with things on our own.
So not transferring those emotions back and forth with each other. Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think our relationship has gotten much better. I think the separation, although as hard as it was to see her go, it's, you know, I think I knew she needed to do it, and I supported her in that decision. But I also think I've really had to step back, and I think I've had to own my responsibility in our history. You know, I think I've had to, you know, admit to her, you know, when I saw that there was fault, I had to acknowledge that and I had to apologize for it. And I had to, because I'm a fixer.
Okay.
And I wanted to manipulate the situation and fix it. But although my intentions were pure and I wanted, you know, I was coming from a place of love and I wanted to fix it for her, but it felt in a way manipulative. Like I was trying to manipulate her into thinking the way that I feel or believing what I felt. And like I said, I think the biggest example of that is with her dad. Again, I'm trying to manipulate the situation and I'm like, oh, forgive him and ignore that, and y'all can be back together. Everybody's happy. He can have his family, we can have our family, but we can all come together and be happy. And she's like, no, that's not what I want to happen. This is what I need. And so I really had to learn to let her take the lead and not try to fix it, and just kind of be there to support and say, what do you need from me?
There you go.
Yeah, because that's a big problem that I started developing anger and resentment towards my mom.
Okay.
Because I'm like, why do you want me to have this relationship with someone who has hurt me so bad? Who has caused all of these issues, my anxiety, my depression, my detachment, like who's caused all of these issues? Why do you want them around me to continue to be able to hurt me? But I had to accept, in her mind, she feels like, that's your father. That's going to be the best thing for you to have your father in your life, because she has a amazing dad, in her life. But my thing is, although I would love to have a great dad, a great relationship, I know that my biological father cannot provide that for me.
Okay.
And so I feel like growing up, I was always perceived as harsh, or I'm standoffish, or I'm mean, or you need to let that go because that's going to bother you more than that bothers them. And that's great. But I choose just not to be around that. So whereas my brother, he could be bothered by the situation, but he's still going to although have a shallow or a minuscule relationship, he's still going to reach out, talk, hang out, every now and then. But his deep, meaningful relationship is with our mother.
Okay.
As opposed to me, I cut it completely off. I want nothing to do with you. So I felt judged,
Okay.
or like they felt that I was handling it the wrong way, but I was just handling it in the way that I needed to.
Your way.
So, so since Cameron's passing and as time has gone on, it honestly feels really good to kind of get some, not necessarily validation, but for my mom to see my perspective now. And I think it took seeing how something this big could happen and he still not show up and want to be there for me for it to click.
Yeah.
And although I was bothered by that, I was like, why did it take all this to click? You know, at least now it has. Because even when Cameron passed, we were in that hospital room. His body, lifeless body, is right there. My dad came in and grabbed my mom. My aunt's husband comforted me. And even with him, like we're not the closest. We don't have the biggest bond, but he stood up as a father for me, as a male figure for me, and he grabbed and consoled me while my own father could not even interact with me. He went straight to my mom. He interacted with her the whole time. He carried her out of the hospital. And again, I had to kind of sit and protect him. I can't sit here and break down about the fact that my father didn't come to me, didn't come to his daughter, his baby girl. I can't, be bothered by that. My mom is hurting. So I'm glad he's at least being there for her. But it's definitely been a struggle because I feel like I have accepted the fact that he just can't be the person that I need him to be. And I was just kind of waiting for everybody else to see it. So,
so you feel like, yeah, they see now.
Yeah, I'm not crazy. I'm not just me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think, like you said, I saw it, but the thing was, because I am so big on family and because I do have my daddy, I'm a daddy's girl, and I wanted that so desperately for my baby,
Right.
Because I know how cruel this world is, and I wanted her to have that. And so I literally was walking through life with blinders on, just excusing away so much just because my end goal was, I just want my baby to have a daddy.
Right.
I just want her to be daddy's girl. I want her to, have a man that loves her unconditionally and spoils her and protects her from this mean, cruel world. But what I didn't realize is I just needed to be that for her.
There you go.
Because he couldn't be.
There you
and
go.
I almost lost her because of that. And and I don't. I'm gonna get emotional.
That's quite all right.
And I get it.
I don't know what I would have done if I had pushed her away. So I'm just so thankful that God showed me, revealed, and I was able to just put my own desires aside and just listen to her and be there to support her in what she needed.
And I think that's so important to put those true listening ears on, and you be what you can be for her and what she needs. What is it you need? Because we can't make others be that for us. We can't make others be that for our children. We can only show up and do what we can do for our children and do what they need us to do for them. And I am grateful that you guys were at that place where Aaliyah could really voice it and you could really hear it. And now you're here. And now you're here. Not to say there isn't a little desire still for that to happen, but it may be with someone else that comes and shows the love later on that Aaliyah so deserves, and that Antoinette so deserves. So there is healing happening in so many ways. I see for you all. I see it. I see it here even today. Going a little bit back to Cameron and the grieving process, like when you're thinking about him, and I know July has to be hard because that is the anniversary of his loss. It's also the month you declared was going to be my month, and it's the month of your birthday. So I can imagine things really being hard during that month. But I want to know a little bit about what emotions come up now that you're truly walking this healing journey, and what different emotions come up when you're processing Cameron's death.
I know for me, I have a really hard time processing things.
Okay.
I think because my brain has experienced so much hurt and so much trauma, I shut down a lot. But what I've noticed is that my brain processes things in my sleep.
Okay.
So I've always had a lot of dreams where my brain is kind of figuring things out, but they became so deep after Cameron's passing. And I feel like he used my dreams to try to help me grieve.
Okay.
So, especially in the beginning, he was showing up every night. And
Okay.
typically in my dreams, when there's people, I don't see their face, but he completely appeared to me.
Okay.
And he was kind of explaining it, and the best way that worked for me, like this was the reasoning behind it. It wasn't because I didn't love you, but it was because I was hurting so much. I was sick. Like he came to my dreams to help me come to terms with his death.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than it being anger, it was kind of like better understand me, or
Mm-hmm.
better understand where I was coming from. So I'm definitely appreciative of having those moments with him, because it allowed me to let down my anger, because that's my safe place. I don't
Yeah.
like to show emotions. I hate to cry in front of people. I don't like that. So anger is my favorite emotion to have.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather push people away than,
Maybe
be
get hurt.
vulnerable. Yeah,
Yeah.
get hurt and be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So I was glad that he at least, or not at least, but that he came to me in my sleep to
Okay.
help me get through it. And I had nights where, one night in particular, I woke up bawling
Mm-hmm.
because I was crying in my sleep, and I woke up and I was still tears just flooding down my eyes, because that was the only time that I was really allowing myself to grieve and to think about him. So I think now I kind of let go of that anger. Um, I I guess I don't necessarily really think anymore about the suicide or what he did. If I think about him, I'm just thinking about him
Him as a
and
person.
as a
Mhm.
person, and not, you know,
How he left.
him, how he left, or feeling like he left me, having those abandonment issues. This is our story. This is what happened, but that's my brother.
I think it was so good that you shared that. Even though your anger is your go-to emotion, it's your favorite emotion,
Mhm.
I think it was good for anybody to hear also that Cameron came to you so he could help you begin to cleanse, because the tears are a form of cleansing. And he wanted you to be able to kind of cleanse your emotions some.
Yeah.
And that's what those tears were to
Mhm.
me in your sleep. Those tears
Yeah.
were, sister, I want you to
Yeah.
exhale and get a little cleansing
Mhm.
of the anger.
Yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt it was really necessary, because another layer to what I was going through, I felt like I wasn't important to him. I
Mm.
felt like I was the annoying little sister. He didn't really fool with me like that. So, and to have this happen, and I'm grateful that he reached out to our mom, but he didn't reach out to me. He
Okay.
didn't say bye to me.
Okay.
So I felt like that was another, okay, well, I don't care that he did it. I'm angry. He didn't care about me anyway. He didn't say bye to me. So why am
Okay.
I grieving? Why am I crying?
Okay.
But he came to me in my sleep, and said, now I'm telling you bye. I'm
Mm.
explaining this to you, and I'm giving you the explanation that you needed, and I care enough to show up to you now, although
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it while I was physically here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm very appreciative of those dreams and waking up crying, because I know that I needed that
Yes.
from him. I needed to have that connection for him and feel like I meant something to him, because I grew up, with my dad. I felt like he loved me conditionally. If I did anything to bother him, hurt him, he's gonna seek revenge. So I didn't grow up feeling loved by a man. Me and my brother didn't have the best relationship, so it heightened it when he passed, and I didn't hear anything. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't receive that goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to come to my dreams, and I know a big thing for death is cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
When they appear to you, that means that's a loved one that's passed. I was seeing cardinals all the time, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, he's showing me, maybe now he can see it, because he's able to see me from a different lens, than what I was giving off to
Yes.
him. and he said my little sister needed me. I'm
Yeah.
her big brother, and she loves me. Although I may not have shown it in the best way sometimes, we may have clashed and have brother sister fights, but she loves me and she misses me, and she needs me to let her know that she's important to me as well.
Mhm.
And to just show up from that Cardinals.
And that Cardinal, I was seeing them all the time. I said,
And it
okay.
was very intentional. I recall, like, for the first Christmas we decided to go away, and we went to an Airbnb, and she has a video of a cardinal literally tapping at the window, like, I'm here.
Nonstop,
Let me, yeah.
nonstop,
No,
kept coming back to the window, like
mhm,
tapping over and
mhm.
over. Yeah,
Wow.
yep.
It
He
was
said, I'm
it
with
was very
y'all.
intentional,
Hmm.
and then, but hearing her process this is just a reminder that they say that, people appear to those who need them. And I think he felt like he'd made his peace with me, and I knew and I understood. So I didn't have the same dreams. I didn't have, I would see a cardinal sighting, but I remember that day just in the room that I was in, just boo-hooing, and I'm like, well, why did he come see you and he didn't come and see me? Is
Mm.
he angry with me? And I think he also came to several of my family members. Like, he went around the house, but the only window literally that he didn't come to was mine. And so I was like, well, why didn't he come and see me? So I remember, that those feelings, but as she says that, this peace just comes because he was saying, I need to be there for my sister. I need to show her that I love her and that I need her to understand. And where I didn't hold that resentment, so there was no need to come and pursue me in that way. I mean, even though there were things, like, I remember, I think the very first thing was we held the race for him for his first birthday, and we let off balloons.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my aunt coming to me, and she's like, do you see those three balloons that come to, like, those balloons, for all the ones went in one direction and those three veered off. And I remember her coming to me saying, that's the Holy Trinity. That's a sign to him that he's with God and he's okay. And and then I think another example was I instead of asking for money for for things, for flowers and things, I asked for people to help me build a memory garden in his
Yes.
honor.
Yes.
And I remember, like, planting flowers, and I put his color, my favorite color and his favorite color was purple, so everything in the back was purple. But I also said, let me work on some things on my own for the front, and put some flowers out there. And I put pink flowers out there, and one day I came home and all of those pink flowers had turned purple.
Wow.
And so, it was little signs like that. And the Cardinals was a big one. I would see Cardinals, like, on my walk, but it was just more so, I'm just going to show an appearance to let mom know I'm still with her. I'm still here. But with Aaliyah, it was more intentional. Like, I'm going to show you, I need you to understand. I need you to listen. And so, I just had that epiphany just now, in her saying that. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's just amazing how he still continues to show up for us,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
if you just have to take the time and sit back and look at it,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
process it, because he is. And I think that was one of the biggest things. Like, we've been attached at the hip since I was 16 years old, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, every day after work he would call, and so, that every day at 5 o'clock, I'm waiting for that phone to ring, and it wasn't ringing. But then it started ringing because Aaliyah started calling, you
Okay.
know, and I think, like I said, she really just stepped in to fill those things. But I think in my head also, I struggled because I think for the first time I saw my dad as frail. I mean, in the sense that he was so broken by that, because they were so attached. That was his best friend. And so I think another thing that I processed was, for the first time, is I was like, we're not going to have my dad forever, and we don't have Cameron. you know, so who's going to be there to protect us?
Right.
But I think, you know, what Aaliyah has shown me with her strength is we're here to protect each other.
Each other.
You know, and if another man or two men come into our
Yeah.
lives and, you know, steps in to give us the love we deserve, that's going to be a bonus. It's not going to be,
Exactly.
you know, something that we have to have because we're that for ourselves.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah. And something else you said about Cameron showing up, kind of going back some, is he came to me because he knew that I needed him. Because in that moment, that time period, because I always kind of show up as the protector, I put my emotions aside to be strong for my mom and to be strong for other people.
Mhm.
I felt like that gave people the idea that I wasn't hurting and that they didn't need to be there for me. I was okay. So everyone was, you know, rallying around my mom, but I didn't receive that same
Okay.
compassion. I remember one of the first few days we were in the house and people were gradually coming by, and one of my mom's friends pulled me aside, pulled me to the front door and said, "Hey, when people come in, tell them not to ask your mom how she's doing. Like, let's prepare to not for your mom not to be hurt. Why am I not sitting with my mom and you're having that conversation with someone else? I'm his sister.
Right.
I'm hurting too."
Right.
So I felt like, although
Some of
I
it was
don't,
unfair.
yeah, and I get it. I don't show emotions. I don't like being vulnerable, but I just needed in that moment for people to see me and see. Although my grief is showing up in a different way, I'm still hurting too. I still need to be protected too. And
Yeah.
a big thing that meant a lot to me again is my aunt's husband said something to her. The fact that in front of everybody, I'm appearing strong. I'm being there for my mom, but who's there for me when I'm alone in my room at night? And that's true. Nobody knows. I was in my room crying myself to sleep, going through those emotions on my own. But when I'm out in public, I'm putting on this strong persona. Everything looks okay. So it felt really good for him to see me
Yes.
and to see, you know, she's hurting too, but she's
Yes.
doing it on her own.
Yes.
And the fact that Cameron too showed up, I know you're doing this on your own. You're going in your room at night in that bed and you're crying by yourself. So when you're sleeping, I'm going to be there with you. So you're not by yourself crying
You
yourself to
don't
sleep.
have to be.
So
That's
yeah,
beautiful. That's actually beautiful.
yeah,
To have that experience with him. To say you don't have to go through this by yourself, missing me by yourself. I'm here with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
And you
my
know, as she was saying that, something else just came to mind. Cameron, a few years back, got a tattoo on his arm, and on his arm it had family first, and their praying hands releasing a dove, and with my name and Aaliyah's name.
Wow.
And just sitting here now processing that, how symbolic is that?
Yes.
Is he had, you know,
Yes.
Aaliyah and I both now have birds on us. We have cardinals that we have tattooed on us, but I just now made that connection of him with that bird and letting that bird go, and he had us, you
Yes.
know, of everyone else in the family that he could have tattooed. He
Yes.
had Aaliyah and I, and I think that was
Yes.
too symbolic of,
Very
you know,
symbolic.
how he was going to show up for us and how
Yes.
he was going to care for us even
Yes.
after he was gone.
And it's like he wanted you two to still have this connection. It's you two side by side. You know, have that connection. And I'm still here. I'm still here. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow, how impactful is this? Now we're kind of nearing the end of, I think, our talks today on the healing journey. This won't be the end, but just for today. How has this journey changed you? This healing journey, the walk that you both of you are walking, how has it changed you?
I feel like for me, it's opened me up a lot more. A big thing that I wanted to speak on, I feel like because of my detachment wanting to detach myself from my father, I did that with his whole side of the family.
Okay.
Um, I kind of pushed everyone away because I grouped them all together.
Uh-huh.
But when my brother passed, because I did feel that kind of abandonment, it made me want to be closer to my family,
Okay.
and it made me want to be closer to my cousins. It opened me up to the fact that we're all in it together.
Mm-hmm.
We all were dealing with trauma from older generations, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can to cope with the life that we were handed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know definitely in that moment I opened myself up more. I'm like, let me get back on social media a little bit, so that I can kind of have that attachment with my cousins, because I don't have my brother anymore,
Right.
but I still have them. Even though they're extended family, they still pretty much went through the same thing that we went through. So
Right.
who can understand me now better than they can?
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely opened my heart up more. I even, the older generation, I can still be around them. I don't have this anger that I have towards them anymore, but I still keep myself distant because I know how they can be.
Mm-hmm.
But I just crave to have, a better relationship with my cousins. And I'm so proud of them because I feel like they're doing an amazing job. They're all older now. They have families and their children, and I watch them, and it's so beautiful to see them breaking that generational curse. They're breaking cycles, and they just seem to be the best parents, and seeing them as spouses and everything. Like, I'm so proud, and they give me strength and make me feel like I can break out of this um because I kind of felt like I have daddy issues,
Mm-hmm.
or I can
Mm-hmm.
never fully heal or never fully be the person that I want to be because of what I've gone through. But they kind of show me that that's not true. I
That's
have to just do the work, and I have
yes.
to heal, and I
Yes.
can get away from all of the hurt, that I dealt with in the past.
Yes.
So I think it's just definitely opened up my heart more, than it was in the past.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Antoinette.
Yeah, I think it just really showed me that I'm stronger than I thought. I think I relied heavily on other people, and the validation of other people. And now I'm like, if I can survive this, I can survive anything,
Mm-hmm.
and if I can live with this loss, then I can
Mm-hmm.
definitely live with the loss of someone else.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it definitely made me believe in myself more. I think although I still believe that family is important,
Mm-hmm.
I do now also understand that family is not necessarily who you share blood with, but who you share
Correct.
love with.
Yes.
And so I think it's it's changed me in that regard, where I can just see the beauty in the relationships that I have. And whereas I've in the past I've pursued relationships that I felt this person should be attached to me, so let me pursue them and force them to be attached to me. But now it's just like I don't have to search. I don't have to convince someone to love me.
That's
You
it.
know,
That's
I,
it.
I'm deserving of love on my own
That's it.
right, and I
That's
shouldn't
it.
have to pursue you to convince you to see that.
Oh, yes. And both of you are so deserving and beautiful. I mean, inside and out, ladies. And so I thank you for sharing with me more of you because I've learned so much from you in this last hour. Um, I appreciate you sharing, Aaliyah, because I know sometimes it's not comfortable opening
Mhm.
up and sharing with people. And I love how your mom is here and listening and was like, okay, okay, and still learning from you
Mhm.
and you learn from her. So I
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful relationship you have. I don't want anybody to think that this is easy by any means. That these two ladies are sitting here looking magnificent today, but you're still healing and still journeying through right now,
Mhm.
journeying through, and
Mhm.
you're to be commended, both of you.
Mhm.
And I just want to encourage you to keep on keeping on. That's my granny would
Mhm.
always say. Keep on keeping on, keep pushing through, and keep thinking and supporting each other, showing
Mhm.
up the way the person needs you to show up, not necessarily how we think they
Mhm.
should show up, you know.
Right.
And both of you are truly deserving of all that God has for you. And I know it's good stuff.
Mhm.
And so I thank you for sharing with me. I thank you for talking with me and sharing your love for Cameron, because I
Mhm.
personally didn't know Cameron, but from everything I have seen and felt from his family, from his mom, from his sister, from friends extended, at the different walks we've done in support of him, I can tell he was a beautiful human being.
Mhm.
And so, if anything, I have to commend both of you because he's a part of both of you. And from you being beautiful women, I know he was a beautiful man. So I thank you. We all thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you. And we thank you for being a safe place
Yes.
to share our story.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, I definitely appreciate you, listening and helping facilitate this conversation because, like you said, it's very important to open up and communicate, and that's a big reason why I wanted to do this because I have been holding it in for so long,
Mhm,
and I
mhm.
finally want to share my story and share my side
Yes.
because everyone's just see my side from what other people are saying. Like I want them to hear it from me and to get a better understanding of me. So
Yes,
I
because this is your lived experience,
Mhm.
and you want to be able to share your experience, your life, your feelings regarding all of this. And so I think you've done it, and you've done it beautifully.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so proud of you for being this open. I just feel my heart, and I just say it
Mhm.
all. I'm like, there's more room out than in, so I
Mhm.
know that this is huge for you, and I applaud you. And you are a beautiful woman inside and out, and I'm so proud that God blessed me with you and gave me the privilege and honor to be your mom.
Yeah. And I wanted to say the same for you. I'm so proud of you and your strength because I don't know how you've made it through all that you've been through, but you continue to do it and you do it gracefully. I love the way that you show up for people, including me. I say all the time, I don't know where I would be or how I would be if I didn't have you. So I'm so appreciative and thankful for you. Even if I don't say it every day, just know that I love you to death and I thank you all the time. And I know Cameron feels the same way. We love our mama. So
Oh,
never question
y'all gonna make me go call my mama here in a minute.
that.
And again, thank you, Lasagna. I remember, I'll never forget this when you sent the text to me and you're like, I'm going to be here when the food delivery stop, when people stop coming, I'm going to be here. And you have been, 3 years later, you're still here no matter day or night. And so
Not going anywhere.
I thank you, and I love you so much for that.
Love you too. Love you too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.